evening, everybody. Welcome to the Newcastle City Council regular meeting. The date is April 16th and the time is 7 o'clock. I'm Mayor Clark presiding. This meeting is being broadcast on our YouTube channel and it is also being recorded for future viewing. Please rise and join me in the flag salute. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Tallman.
Here.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lacotia. Is absent. And Mayor Clark.
Here.
Thank you,
Deputy Mayor Lacotia will be excused from tonight's meeting. Could I get a motion to excuse Deputy Mayor from participating in tonight's meeting?
I'll move to excuse Deputy Mayor Lacotia from tonight's meeting.
And a second, please.
Well, second.
Thank you. City Clerk, please, all in favor of Deputy Mayor Lacotia being excused from the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? City Clerk, please show Deputy Mayor is excused. Okay, moving on to our agenda approval. Anybody have alteration desired or change to the agenda for tonight's meeting? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved. Moving on to public comment. City Clerk, do we have anybody signed up for public comment? Thank you. We will have public comment. The rules for public comment is please come up to the podium and introduce yourself with your name and neighborhood. You'll have 3 minutes to state what you'd like to say, and a buzzer will sound at the conclusion of the 3 minutes. We ask you to wrap it up. Ed Flash, come on up.
Oh, no. Perfect. Excellent. So I periodically want to get up in front of the City Council and just give you an update on the Newcastle Arts Council. So I do this 2 or 3 times a year, and I figured now was a good time to do it because we have a couple of events and activities coming up that I want you to be aware of. So first of all, I want to...
Ed, could I ask you to speak a little more into the microphone, please?
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Again, Ed Flash, My Post Neighborhood. I'm here in capacity as my co-president role of the Newcastle Arts Council. So first of all, I want to thank the city for supporting our activities and being a great advocate for promoting the arts in Newcastle. It's been well appreciated by both myself, the board, and certainly the community. So thank you for that. I just want you to be aware that we've, through our events and activities in partnership with the library and things that we've done so far this year, we've touched over 2,000 people in our community. So 2,000 people have attended our events or viewed our exhibitions, and that's a conservative number because we don't have a really good count, but we estimate that that's at least that amount. We have planned for over 60 touch points this year. So some of those have already happened and some of those are planned for the future. One of the things that we are super proud of that we just completed was our youth art exhibition in March. We actually had, so we have a People's Choice Award where people can vote on the best of the show, and we had 462 ballots that were submitted, which is twice as many as we've had in the past. I don't know what happened, but kudos to the community and the Arts Council and the library for promoting the activity and letting all those people view the exhibition. So also, so you know, that exhibition is supported through some gifts by some of our local charities and or businesses and organizations. So there will be a winner that will get a prize package, which includes some gifts from our local businesses. Couple of things that are coming up that I want to let you guys know about. May 19th, we have an event here actually at the parking lot in City Hall. It's a pop-up art event. So for a couple hours, we're going to set up some tents in City Hall, and people can come by and do artwork. The idea behind that is to help create artwork for our little art gallery, which is here at City Hall, and also for our rock garden, which is also at City Hall. So we're going to do a refresh of the rock garden and again create art for the little art gallery. We have our art fair coming up in July, so we're looking for vendors to, art vendors to exhibit at the art fair. It is free for art vendors. So if you know of anyone that is interested, please pass on that word to them and reach out to the Arts Council for the application. It's actually on our website. But we'd love to have some of our local artists participate in that activity. As usual, this will be our 4th year for doing that. And then lastly, we are launching a culinary tour of Newcastle. So we've partnered with 4 businesses in Newcastle, Frosty Barrel, Mod Pizza, Jersey Mike's, and Tapatio, to do a Newcastle Arts Council Day. So part of the proceeds from sales at their location on those days goes to the Newcastle Arts Council. So we consider this a win-win-win for everyone, and we'd like you to participate. The Tapatio one is coming up this month on the 29th, and then it's every once a month for the next 4 months. So thank you, and again, thanks for supporting the arts.
Thank you, Ed. Is there any other member of the audience who would like to speak? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Len Troutman. I'm a Newcastle resident in the Hazelwood neighborhood for 39 years. I hadn't planned on speaking again tonight. The reason I'm doing so is I've gotten 2 messages from members in the community that says that the audio is really bad tonight. They've got their iPhone and computers turned way up and the audio is really bad. So just a notification, and if there's something we can do about it, I thought I'd give you guys a chance to do that. Otherwise, I'm just letting you know what people are telling me. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Len. City Clerk or Director Bronze, is there anything that we can do? I would just encourage everybody speaking to please speak directly into the microphone. If you're back even a little bit, the sound trails off. So please, that will help a great deal. And for members of the public who are listening that are hard of hearing or hard to hear, right, it's not intentional. We'll look into it. That's all I can say. That concludes public comment. Okay, moving on. There are no ceremonial presentations. The next up is council comment. Councilmember Griffin, please start us out tonight.
No comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Sherlock.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to highlight something that was in the newsletter this week from the city. The CAC is spotlighting various community members throughout the year in honor of our 30th anniversary for the city. And I believe it's John and Imelda Dulcich and Karen Blakely this week. So check out the website for more information on all the wonderful things that they've done for our community. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Burford, do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for coming, everyone. Again, for the second Sundays with a Cup was a huge success this time, doubled the participants. I was there after the beginning until the end of the event. It was really heartwarming to interact with parents and children from our community and talking about public safety and community engagement. And, they got to see us face to face and ask questions. Thank you, Frosty Barrel and our police chief and everyone who participated. They actually posted on their Facebook page. Also, I attended, we communicated, Jeff emailed us regarding the National Emergency Management Training. I was there. It was a great training. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
So what's going on?
That was not for you. Do you have more to say?
Oh, yeah. So I thought, yeah, I just want to say thank you for the information. It was so informative and made me also think I'm going to ask you some questions in email. Want to see how well prepared our city and do we need any updates? Something. Yeah. So just stay tuned. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. Yeah, just really briefly wanted to encourage folks to come to the town hall on May 7th. I'll also be at the Newcastle Diamond Awards May 2nd. I was able to attend last year. It was really a nice event, and encourage folks to attend. And then just, I was really excited to see on I think our consent agendas get overlooked a lot. I was really excited to see the improvements going into both May Creek Drive and 116th Ave, which are two of our major roads, and excited to see both those projects moving forward. So I didn't want to just brush over that.
Councilmember Tallman.
Thank you, Mayor. No comment.
Okay, thank you. For me, I only have one comment tonight. That would be a reminder that we have flag retirement ceremony coming up. With my VFW post, there's a box in the City Hall foyer over there to drop off flags. So please remind people, if you have a worn, tattered, or faded flag, we will take them. U.S. flags. Okay, that's all I have for that.
Yeah, sorry about the alarm. Stop me my thinking. I would like to add what Ed just mentioned, and thank you, Ed, for coming. So because I've been volunteering for Arts Council, and Ed has been working tirelessly with the entire Newcastle Arts Council. So Newcastle Arts Council has done tremendous work for community engagement and partnership and collaboration. And I really, really just want to take this opportunity to thank you for all you do, because I really witnessed firsthand how like we are the team, collaboration, and also you are the true leader leading the Arts Council. So I just want to thank you. 谢谢. Also, please everyone support by joining the Newcastle, going to restaurants with your family. You will give 20% back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our council comment and mayor comment. So next up on our agenda is a report from Waste Management, our 2023 annual report. And excuse me, Joe Camaro. Am I saying that right, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome, Joe.
Push the red button. And I could just do a quick introduction. Joe Camaro is our public sector manager, so he's our day-to-day liaison that I would contact with service problems or questions, which I don't have to contact him too often, which is a good thing. And then with him is Joey Palakia, who's the senior district manager for the base in South Seattle. Take it away, Joe.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Joe Camaro. Thanks again. Oh, yeah, thank you. Just a little bit about myself. I'm the new public sector manager for the city of Newcastle. I came on board September of last year. My former colleague was Laura Moser, terrific person. But now I hail from California, so don't hold that against me. Decided that I spent too much time in sunny San Diego and decided I wanted a little more weather up here. So I'm here, and I'm really proud to be representing WM and supporting the city of Newcastle. I feel like it's important for us to be a part of the community and to invest our time and be a good partner to the city. And I just wanted to go ahead and start with our senior district manager, his name Joey Palakia here. I want to introduce him, and he'll talk a little bit about himself and our operations. All right.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Joey Palakia. I'm the Senior District Manager for WM of Seattle. I have been with the company for 13 years in about 6 weeks. I'm very proud of that. I have been working in our WM of Seattle facility for the last 4.5 years. I started in January of 2020, which was a great time to start a new job. It was very difficult through the pandemic, but one thing I do want to mention, during the pandemic, our company never laid off one employee and guaranteed everybody 40 hours during the week through that entire pandemic. That just came to me. I just remembered how incredible that was, and shows that we put our people first. Like I mentioned, 13 years with the company, been in various roles, but for the 4.5 years back here. I do we have an incredible team. I have Shannon Reiswig, which is the gentleman in the picture there with the Mariners hat on. Shannon works directly with me and with the city of Newcastle. He is your direct manager and manages the drivers. And we have some long-term drivers that service the city of Newcastle. Very proud of over 150 years of experience with those drivers specifically. In 2023, every week we service about 10,000 carts for residential services. So that's solid waste, recycle, and compost. So that's 520,000 service points every single year.
Joey, can I interrupt you for one moment, please? Council will excuse me, and the audience will excuse me. I'm having a little bit of an allergy. I'm coughing my brains out here, so I don't want to. You continue. I'm going to step out briefly.
Okay.
So please continue.
Okay, will do. As I was mentioning, 520,000 service points in 2023. And we all know service is incredibly important to our communities. We had 312 service failures out of that 520,000. So that's 99.94% service accuracy. And even with those 312 customers that were missed, we were able to come back and service the next week and pick up any additional charges. I'm incredibly proud of my team. I know that Shannon works directly with Jeff if there are any issues, which rarely come up, to be honest, which is great. But I speak on behalf of the operations and the drivers and the managers. And I would be, if there's any questions that I can answer, if you think of something during Joe's presentation, feel free to hold back and let me know. But if you have any questions right now about our operations, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Joe. Thank you very much. I don't want to take your notes. Just take the note.
Thank you, Joey. All right. So a few other highlights from our operations this past year. In February 2023, we did a residential reroute. I don't think we had any issues there. In November 2023, we did a commercial reroute. And again, I didn't think we have any complaints. Right? All right, Jeff. And I also wanted to talk about our investment in our call center. Wanted to highlight this particular stat. So at the end of 2023, there were about 2,262 Newcastle Easy Pay users. There's about 3,500 customers in Newcastle. So almost 2/3 of your customer base is using our online services to pay for their bills. And I want to highlight that because, you know, with the spectrum of ways to service your account, we're always looking for an opportunity or a platform for different audiences to engage with their accounts. So we continue to invest in those technologies, and if you have any ideas or if you hear of anything that would help your customers have an easier time to service their accounts, feel free to share it with us, and we'll take it to our leadership, and because we're always looking for ways for us to engage with our customers. So let's talk a little bit about the diversion rates this past year. Looks like here we are. We had almost 62% diversion in total. On the residential side, and then on the multifamily and the commercial, there's 26.6% and 14.1%. The good news is that garbage has been reduced and recycling has been increased. It's been a fairly steady, I guess, trend, and this year we're looking to engage more with the multifamily properties in Newcastle. Earlier there was, to Logan Nelson, he is our new outreach specialist. So he's going to be tasked to engage more with the multifamily apartments in Newcastle to help bring up those diversion numbers. So we'll have more updates in 2025 and see how successful we are in hopefully raising those diversion rates in the multifamily properties. I'd also like to remind folks that sometimes we'll have Santa coming around during the holidays if you saw him this year. So, and then, yeah, for the community engagement, each year we're happy to write a check to the city of Newcastle for community events of $15,000 a year. So we're happy to support the events of Newcastle. Also, we're looking forward to tabling some of the events, Newcastle Days, Summer in the Park fireworks on the lake. So we're looking to be a little bit more visible in the community. And if you have, again, any questions or suggestions for us to be out to engage, we are more than happy to take those suggestions. And here are some of our calendar items for this year. I did want to note that we are hiring interns for the summer. If you know of anyone in college, have them visit WM.com in the careers page. So we hire about 10 interns every summer to do outreach in the community and basically the entire Puget Sound. It would be great to have a Newcastle intern this year. So if you know of anyone that wants to get their kids some summer jobs, it would be a great place to learn about this. And if you have any further questions, I have my contact information here and with Jeff, and if I'm open to taking any questions, and I'm looking forward to continuing our partnership with the city and working with Jeff and Scott and making sure that we don't miss any pickups. All right, thank you.
Are there any council questions for Joe or Joey before they go? Councilmember Sherlock, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation and for coming tonight. I don't know if maybe Logan's the right person to ask this question, but what is there a goal for the diversion rate? And can you just real quick for people listening at home explain what that means? I think I know, but.
Yeah, of course. So when we collect all of the, I guess, recyclables and compost, that's the recyclables and compost amount to everything that's been diverted. So the total tonnage between the garbage, the recyclables, and the food, yard waste, that's your total tonnage that's been taken away. And then anything that is compostable or recyclable, that's what's diverted from the landfill. So for the last 4 years, it's been kind of a steady trend for Newcastle. And we, right now, I think, it was at 26.6%. So our goal is always to try and increase that. And it's always a little tricky, I just want to say, because if there's like a heavy rainy season, that actually adds weight to the food yard waste. So it kind of skews the numbers a little bit. But we try and keep track of these properties because sometimes they don't always have all of the right buckets, I guess carts in their areas, or they need to be resized, or it's just a simple educational engagement with them, and that allows them to at least be thoughtful about how they dispose of their waste.
Mm-hmm. Is there any conversation about, I've lived in other places where maybe the garbage only is picked up every other week to kind of promote, putting more into the land, putting more compost instead of putting it in the garbage. You put in that gets picked up every week, or same with recycling. Is there any talk about, because right now I think we have garbage and land or yard debris compost is picked up every week, but recycling is every other week. So is there any talk about increasing the recycling so that you're kind of incentivizing people to do that more?
That would, I guess, depend.
Maybe you're not the right person to answer, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'll just mention something that usually happens during contract negotiations, right? Depending on what municipalities want, we have an offerings, right? And it depends on what the municipality, if they want every other week. I think, like in Portland has every other week service of garbage, right? And usually we're weekly, but yeah, it all depends at contract time. Okay.
Just one quick thing I'll add is that customers can request either a larger or a second recycling container at no charge.
Councilmember Tallman, go ahead.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the presentation. 62.2% diversion rate. How does that, I'm sorry if I missed this, but how does that trend with the previous years?
I actually have that here. And so it's about It's flat. So I think we may have hit a plateau here in Newcastle. So it would probably be good for us to start promoting a little bit more heavily on some of the recycling practices.
Okay. Is there any way for us to look on your website or to know on the recycling part, on the materials, the glass bottles and paper and things like that, how much of what type of product is being recycled? Do you
Yes,
break
sir.
that down?
Yeah. We issue a monthly report to Jeff, and we can pull that information for you, but it breaks down the materials and the recycling that's being collected.
And then, so for like renewables, is there any way to know what of those products goes into other manufacturing or things like that? Like paper and such?
Yeah, that would be a little bit hard to say because the way the recycling, I guess, it's a commodity. So we're always looking for buyers for the best price of that material.
Right.
So it kind of, and since WM is such a large company, we have partners in everywhere. So if a bale of paper could easily go to a different part of Washington in a paper mill or something. So it all kind of depends on the pricing because it's just like, it's almost like trading futures and various products. Yeah.
All right. Last question. Do we have a solution for styrofoam?
I believe we are collecting styrofoam at. Let me see. Let me double check on that because I think we have that as a special pickup. I'll have to confirm that. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have the special pickup, but we do collect styrofoam at our 2 annual household recycling events.
And
Hazardous
we
waste.
take those down to the Styro Recycle in Kent?
That's who the partner is. So they come to, like, it was just a week ago Saturday at Hazelwood Elementary School, and styrofoam was recently added to those events in the last year or two.
Good. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for the presentation. It's nice to meet you. I've been really continually impressed by sort of Laura before you, and also I'm glad it's continuing with you. The effort you all make to engage with us, it's really appreciated. We don't get that a lot of times as a small city. So please hope to see you more and continue that. My question is actually around composting. So my older brother is a high school environmental science teacher, and he has a whole unit on compost. And something that they've talked about a lot is, I think when we look at, I wanted to see if there's any mechanism that either you put in place somewhere else, or we could talk about now to make composting sort of available for people that live in multifamily, that people that live in apartments or commercial. I think a lot of times in my experience living in an apartment, you might have trash chutes and you have a garbage chute and you have a recycle chute, and you'd be happy to compost your egg carton, or you'd be happy to compost your banana peel or something like that, but it's just not really an option for you. Is there anything that can be done? I know sometimes you might not have the chute for it, but you have, in the parking lot, in the parking garage at the bottom, you can have a compost receptacle. As well as commercial, I know that commercial is pretty wide encompassing, but I know restaurants have to have food waste. It just has to exist. So I would love to, is there anything that we could do? Because I mean, just looking at the graphics, I know it's notably absent. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. First, we're going to start with education. So when Logan and some of our other outreach specialists approach multifamilies, they have the option to subscribe to those services. And it's really just about encouraging them to, kind of do the right thing. And then there is another option that I haven't really brought up a little bit with Jeff, but there's also the consideration of a contamination charge. So if in your garbage, if they're having like compost or recyclable materials, then we can kind of note that and then either send a few warnings and then maybe a small $3 fine, but at least it gets them thinking about doing the right thing. So that's just kind of a program that we haven't really talked about yet, but it's always available because with our drivers, they can, and our smart trucks, they can see what's kind of being dumped into in the cab. And so I think, so those are a couple possibilities that we can look at, but I think the first thing is through education and just reminding property owners and managers that, you really need to do some composting, because my apartment, I think there's about 200 units. We just have one 96-gallon compost cart, and that's not enough for my apartment. But yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Joey, and excuse my
Oh, it's okay.
meltdown in the middle of your presentation. So thank you very
All right.
much for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, and again, I apologize to everybody for, I hope it doesn't happen again. Moving right along on our agenda tonight, we have a Q1 capital improvement project update from Director Bronze. Go ahead.
Don't have anything planned to present. Just happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so everybody should have had a chance in their agenda packet to read what Director Bronze put out. Are there any questions? Councilmember Sherlock, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Bronze, I was hoping that, I've asked you this in the past, but especially for our newer council members, can you kind of go through how things get on the capital improvement plan and like what the best way is for, well, maybe just start with that.
Sure.
Thanks.
Basically, things start from the comp plan. So the comp plan, look at the comp plan is your master list, your 20-year list, and that's the capital facilities appendix, and then also the parks and trails appendix, the transportation appendix, and the facilities appendix will all kind of highlight the present needs, and it all boils down to the tables in the capital facilities appendix. So that's like, I'd consider that your 20-year list. And then our 6-year list that we talk about in the summer, our 6-year transportation improvement program, that's mandated by law that we have to update that every year. That's a 6-year planning list. And then we've also echoed that format for parks, trails, and stormwater to essentially lay out a plan. So all projects on those, on the transportation list, the projects on that list, I'm sorry, let me take it back, step back. All those projects are basically fed from that 20-year capital facilities appendix list. And then any projects like the ones that are on the consent agenda to award, those are on the 6-year transportation program or TIP. And it's a requirement that projects be on that list before we can expend capital funds on them. Likewise, projects pretty much unanimously have to be on the TIP to be eligible for grants for transportation. And then the equivalent for stormwater would be identified in some other planning document. So for stormwater, for instance, we have the comprehensive plan, and then we also have our comprehensive surface water master plan. So both those, that's where it lists out their shorter term 6-year capital projects. So let's say something comes up outside of that. So for instance, the mini roundabout on 116th. So you could consider that as either part of a traffic calming, because it is a traffic calming element. It could be considered there's a corridor widening project on the 20-year list in the comp plan from Southeast 84th Street down to May Creek Park Drive. So that could be considered a part of that project as well. If there's something that came up out of the blue that wasn't part of any of those, for instance, putting a signal at some intersection we've not considered before, then you would have to amend the transportation impact plan to add that project. And that would then come to council for a revision of the plan. And those plans can be, unlike the comprehensive plan, which has restrictions on how often it can be updated, the TIP, the TIP can be updated as often as necessary. But then you'd still want to have something on your master comprehensive plan list that supports that. So that you could look at, maybe it's a bigger element of a larger effort, if it was, or it could support the program goals that are identified in the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thanks. So I'm gonna recap what I heard and you tell me if I'm right.
Sure.
So the comprehensive plan is kind of where a lot of projects start.
That's the master list.
That's the master list. And then every year, the council is going through and updating and voting on the CIP, capital improvement plan.
Correct. Yeah, yes, I should have, I'm just realizing I rushed through that. So the 6-year list is identified the planning, what we're going to do from year one, which is next year, through year 6. And the degree of certainty is higher at the beginning of that 6 years, and the outer 6 years, it's likely we're going to do that, but it may roll off, it may move forward because that's 6 years out, so priorities come and go. But it's generally an indication of what work is intended to occur.
Okay. And then as things come up through various ways, through the community or the council or staff, then it's discussed whether we want to put it on the 6-year plan. And do we typically say, hey, let's make sure this is part of our comp plan before we put it on the 6-year plan? Is that kind of part of the process?
I would say it depends on the significance of the project. We have a lot of programs, annual programs, traffic calming, sidewalk, the park, the trail improvements. So a lot of smaller improvements can be covered under one of those existing programs. If it was something that's significant, let's say, I can't think of something right now, but something that would be like a pedestrian bridge over Coal Creek Parkway in downtown. That's something that's not identified anywhere. So that'd be an example of something that would be pretty large of a scope and cost that would most likely need to go beyond the 6-year tip to make sure it's consistent with the city's policies and plans.
And do plans on the comprehensive plan, and I don't know if Director Fitzgibbon wants to weigh in at all, but do those get only added when we do these big 10-year redos of the comprehensive plan, or do they get added annually when we do just the little kind of updates?
I'd say, I'll start off and then Aaron certainly jump in. I'd say both.
Okay.
So at a minimum, you should be looking at it at your major updates to make sure those lists are accurate and reflect the needs of the community. But you can certainly add them at any time. So for instance, when we did the impact fee updates in 2020, as a part of that, we updated the capital facilities appendix list. So that was outside of the major update cycle, but it was intended as part of the update process for the impact fees.
Because we can do that once a year, right? Yeah. Okay.
Once a year, and then also we can do it with a budget amendment as well. So you do have another opportunity.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Director Bruns? Seeing none, I have one for you, Director. The cemetery fence, I'm just looking through here again, and we haven't started on it, obviously. Is the fence going to be completed all the way around? What's the plan?
So the plan is to do it on the sides that face. So the sides that face 129th, the east side, and the side that faces the Crosstown Trail on the north side. We're planning to do a budget additive, which means you put in a base bid, which is your minimum improvement, and then you also seek a bid for some additional work, and depending on the prices. So that's actually one of the items on the consent agendas. We had a base bid and a bid additive for May Creek Park Drive. So for the fence, right now, our budget is likely only going to do the east and north sides, but depending on where the bids are, and if it looks like a favorable price, then we will ask them for a bid for both the west and the south as well.
Okay. My wife and I were out walking the other day, and the west side fence along the pipeline is still in terrible shape. It's all beat up and
Yeah, a tree just fell down recently on
well, when they cut the boughs off the trees for the project, they knocked the fence off skew. I was wondering if we still have Puget Sound Energy on the hook to fix that, because that damage did occur from dropping the boughs during the construction.
Well, we can talk about that offline, but we heard about that. We looked into it, and we were told that wasn't the case. But
okay, yeah, we can talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No other questions for Director Bruns then? Okay, thank you, Director. Okay, moving on. Moving on. We have council committees. Any council committees have a report for us? Councilmember Tallman, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Clark. I am pleased to announce that we had our first ad hoc Public Safety Committee meeting on Monday, April 8th. We had 5 members attending. 2 members were out of town. Our next meeting will be on May 6th, and all members will be attending. This last meeting on the 8th, we invited Mayor Clark to come and make a few comments. And we also had Clerk Westman there taking notes for us, so we thank her for her services there. The 7 members of the Ad hoc Public Safety Committee are Aaron Myers, Elizabeth Woodseth, Amber Elam, Len Troutman, both of those are attending here tonight, Philip Schmidt-Pathman, and Kyrie Teshuda. Most of these are longtime members of the community. I think the shortest is 3 years. We had introductions. We talked about the purpose of the committee and did a little bit of a housekeeping, but we really educated ourselves on the year-end crime stats and compared that to the ETC Institute Community Survey to kind of get a feel for how the community is gauging our performance from a public safety perspective. We set up a new date. There's no action items at this point. The next meeting, we invited Chief Kajihiro and his team and City Manager Pingle to join us. So we're looking forward to that meeting. We're trying to keep these meetings to an hour. The first meeting was 2 hours. We anticipated it would be about an hour and a half, but we went over a little bit. So we're going to be lean and mean on the next meeting, hopefully, but they're productive and had a great meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other council committees? Nope. Okay. Regional committees? Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a bit of a more lengthy report because we talked about in depth about the public defense issue. So I'm going to go over the few items that aren't that because that one's a bit lengthier. And then I would invite folks if they have questions about the public defense one, including City Manager Pingle, to if we want to have a discussion about that, happy to. So just really quick, for Public Sound City Association Public Issues Committee is what I'm referring to here. It's a regional policy committee. The King County Metro is renewing their free youth transit. Once again, it took effect in September 1st, 2022, and it was recently renewed. They estimated, so it's free rides for anyone under age 19, so 18 and below. They distributed 44,000 youth Orca cards and estimated about 7 million free rides. So free transit for kids was awesome. We talked about, we got an update on the King County Regional Homelessness Authority from a council member in Renton and the mayor of Auburn that serve overseeing King County Regional Homeless Authority. They had turnover in the past, but they have a new CEO that they think has been effective thus far. And recently, Mayor of Seattle, Bruce Harrell, and King County Executive Doc Constantine doubled down in their commitment to fund the King County Regional Homelessness Authority and support their efforts and discussion among the Public Issues Committee. There's a general feeling that in the past they had failed to really engage with the cities outside of Seattle, so there was a push to engage with them outside moving forward. So going back to the public defender, so this is for context, I'll read the official definition here. Give me a second. So for folks, we've talked about this at the past in a couple meetings. In March, the Washington State Bar Association voted to adopt revised public defense standards. Essentially, that it would create a need to triple the amount of public defenders that there currently are, and public defender costs are largely paid for by cities and counties. So it would cause a lot of cities to really not be short-staffed in terms of public defenders, and it would astronomically raise the price. So there's been a lot of conversation and discussion around this. I want to highlight what we talked about. First and foremost, the reasons that were stated were that there was a national study and on public defenders and people who work as public defense attorneys that there's been what they call a crisis of attrition, and there's an inability to recruit brought about by excessive workloads for public defenders and poor compensation. Indeed, there's a conversation, the president of Association of Washington Cities is actually a former public defender herself. It's very much talked about as a job that, you don't, when you have a law degree, you don't go to law school, you don't go to public defender law school, you go to law school. And there's the conversation about once you get a law degree, you have an option to go into a lot of potential lucrative practices in the field of law. And choosing to be a public defender is making a conscious choice to go into one of the less lucrative ones. So they talked about that sort of tension. And there's not really a clear, the thing that cities are struggling with is that there was not a clear means of how this workforce would grow, how we would triple the number of public defenders. The Bar Association suggested that more public defenders would want to work in the state of Washington from outside the state of Washington, because relative to other public defense pay for states outside, it is higher for the state of Washington. SCA and AWC pushed back that the cost of living is also higher in the state of Washington, and that they didn't feel like that was a valid sort of take to have. The main things moving forward were that it's in the hands of the Supreme Court, and any decision the Washington State Supreme Court makes is binding. So even if we don't like it, if the Supreme Court makes that decision, it's tough. So they have the option to take these recommendations or to not and adopt alternative rules. Association of Washington Cities has someone that I'm going to forward this to you, City Manager Pingle, Lindsay Huer, who is the government affairs advocate. They're requesting specific information from cities. They want examples of current expenditures on public defense and any potential budgetary impacts that tripling these expenditures would have without alternative funding. If you have any examples of challenges with finding adequate number of qualified attorneys, and examples of types of cases that are handled in your municipal court. The big real concern is that municipal courts and county courts are the only ones that can hand out sort of felony charges. District courts only have the jurisdiction over gross misdemeanors, and infractions. So there's a concern that with this, there will be less opportunity to hear cases in city and county courts because not having enough public defenders, and that would lead to felonies that would lead to felonies being instead classified as misdemeanors. So that's the big concern there. And there are 2 listening sessions that they want to encourage folks to attend. The way it was described to me was they don't know if going to the listening session will result in what we want, but they know not going to it will result in what we don't want. Whereas they don't want the opposition to be able to point to that as saying that people didn't show up. So they are April 22nd at 4 p.m. and May 10th at 12 p.m. I'll try to forward links to those to the city manager. I assume there's a way we could show up there's an official city capacity you could show up in as well. And I think that is mostly it. I will stop there. There was a really long conversation about it. There were a lot of council members from other cities that had legal experience, that were lawyers in their day-to-day life, that talked about all this. And there's really sort of robust conversation back and forth. I think it's clear that no one wants this, though, in the sense of we recognize public defenders are overworked and underpaid, unfortunately, like a lot of jobs, but just making a drastic change like this so quickly would not behoove cities. It would screw over a lot of cities and not lead to the outcomes I think anyone wants.
Thank you. Very thorough report. Appreciate it. You have a question? Go ahead, Councilmember Sherlock.
Thank you. Councilmember Charbonneau, was there any talk about like different levels being, like, instead of just a blanket, like all municipality stuff is now going to be this? Is there any talk of, depending on the size or depending on, do you know what I'm saying? Like there might be different levels that would be implemented, or is it just kind of all or
Levels in
nothing?
regards to what?
Of like caseloads, like reducing the caseloads if you are in a city that's whatever population or number of cases, or there's lots of different ways to do it. But was there any talk about that?
My understanding is that no.
Okay.
That it's just it would be for all public defenders regardless of the municipality you serve, with pushing to reduce that And it would be by about 2/3 the maximum caseload they can currently take on.
Go ahead, city manager, you have a comment?
Just here, they already sent out the information requesting stuff from cities, and so I've already responded, and I have the listening sessions. So I think for a little while, there's gonna be more questions than answers, just because even the basic questions we've asked as far as, there's a difference. So one of the things that the national study pointed out was that cases are becoming more complex, and so you're spending more time on them, but there's also a difference in the complexity of a case that a municipal court is taking on versus what Superior Court takes on. So of course, that's gonna take a different level of commitment and time and all of those things, but nobody's talking about that. And so those are important things that affect us directly that nobody has an answer for at this point.
Do we know when the Supreme Court is supposed to make this decision, and what time frame are we talking about?
I don't think that there is a specific time frame at this point. We're looking at probably summertime at the earliest. Do you have a gist for that?
No. I'm not aware of a date for a decision. Supreme Court just does what the Supreme Court wants to do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other regional committees? Councilmember Tallman, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clark. So on Friday, I attended the East Side Transportation Partnership meeting. A lot of the discussion was on the Sound Transit, Stride, bus rapid transit. If you drive down 405 towards Renton, you'll see a lot of construction, and this is what they're working on, a main hub down on 44th Avenue. And one of the discussions, I've already updated Director Bronze and City Manager Pingle on this, but we had some concerns that the 112th Avenue Southeast and Lake Hills exit would not be getting a hub. And there's a direct shot from Renton to Bellevue without a stop in Newcastle. Part of the appeal is access to that hub is a little bit more difficult down on the Northeast 44th exit. And so we're trying to put measures in place so we can request further development to service the Newcastle and the Lake Hills stop at 112th. And fortunately, we discovered that they are building in the main infrastructure for that stop, so that when they decide to actually provide service, they can just build it without having to do the basic infrastructure. So that's really most of what that discussion was about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tallman. Anybody else, regional committees? Okay, city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I just had one main thing. We were able to get a reserve officer. I met him today. His name's Tim Brewer. He worked in Honolulu for 6 years, and then he's been with King County Sheriff's Office for the last 24 years. He retired about 6 months ago. And he has been a patrol training officer. He was a master police officer, and he's been a traffic officer. And so excited to have him. With KCSO, he served a few of the contract cities. So he served Shoreline, he served Metro Transit and Sound Transit. So we're excited to have somebody on board and give us some extra help.
Okay,
That's all I got.
thank you, city manager. Any questions for the city manager? Okay, seeing none. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Any objections to the consent agenda as presented? Any alterations desired? Okay, seeing none, show the consent agenda approved as written. Moving on, we have no public hearings and we have no unfinished business, and we also do not have any general business items scheduled tonight. So that brings us to additional public comment. City clerk, do we have anybody? Nobody signed up. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. Moving on to our planning calendar. Go ahead, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a lot of changes from the last meeting, actually, to the planning calendar. As everybody's aware, May 7th will be the town hall meeting at Risden Middle School. The main thing we've added for the May 21st meeting is we'll do our first quarter financial report. We'll plan on that for the May 21st meeting. And then just pointing out the 6 p.m. special meeting, which will be a joint meeting with the Planning Commission for May 21st. And I'm sure that June and July will fill out as we get closer, but with the town hall and the break, that's what we have at this point.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. So the City Manager had sent out previously a schedule for the town hall, the agenda. Are there any questions or concerns about the agenda because this is our last meeting before the town hall? Okay, so it's pretty simple. We're going to have most of the meeting to be interaction with the audience, right? We're going to request the audience to ask us questions. We hope that they do. People may have more than one question, and we'll come back around to them. If they have one question, we'll get through the audience. If the person wants to ask a second question, we can come back. There was a suggestion we received from email, and I've heard from others that, you know, people don't like to stand up at the microphone. Maybe they want to give a written comment. I'll put a stipulation such as this. If a person comes to the town hall but does not want to stand up and speak, we'll be glad to take their written comments at the town hall. However, if somebody sends a written comment and then doesn't show up, that's pointless because they could do that any day of the week. They could send us something. So really this is about interacting with the people at the town hall. People want to speak at the microphone, that's our preferred choice, and we're going to encourage that. If somebody comes to the town hall but does not want to speak, we'll collect, and I'm not sure how we'll do that mechanism. We'll put out a notice or something, but if somebody wants to drop a written comment in a box, perhaps, and if we get through all the oral comments and we have time, then we can pick randomly out of this box. What are your thoughts? Anybody from the council have thoughts about that? Okay, I think that's a fair and a reasonable solution. So we are going to encourage people to speak and come to the microphone. We want to hear from you. I know it can be intimidating, but we're not going to bite you, right? We want to hear what you have to say. We really do. That's why we're going to devote most of this meeting to hearing from the public, right? That's the main purpose, okay? So doors open at 6:30. City Manager, would you like us to show up early to help set up, or how does that work?
Most of the setup will, we're not going to have to set up our own chairs or anything like that. Most of that will be done by the school district. It's really up to the council. We shouldn't need a lot of help as far as setup for the meeting to start. We're inviting our 2 commissions as well as our main nonprofits to have tables if they want, and so they're invited to come set up, and at 6, doors open at 6:30 for the meeting to then start at 7. And so it's really up to the council. We're happy to have you early if you want to come, but I don't know that there needs to be an obligation there.
Okay. I did ask the city manager to see if this meeting could be recorded, even though it might not be of the best quality. Anything we can do to help the public be informed about what we're doing is helpful, so he's going to check into that. And we better end this meeting before I have another meltdown here. Any other questions or comments? Very well. Seeing none, the meeting is